It was a Tuesday night, the kind of evening that feels heavy, like the air is holding its breath. The rain had been hammering against the bay windows of my living room for hours, a relentless rhythm that usually put me to sleep. But not tonight. Tonight, the silence of the house felt wrong. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, the screen lit up, cutting through the dim light. A message from Mrs. Higgins, my neighbour 3 doors down. "Mom, there's a young woman lying weakly at the corner in front of your house. She looks hurt." "I think you should know." I stared at the words. A cold prickle danced down my spine. My instinct, that deep, ancient alarm system mothers have, began to scream. I didn't grab a coat. I didn't grab an umbrella. I just ran. I threw the front door open. The wind hit me like a physical blow, carrying the scent of wet asphalt and ozone. I sprinted to the corner of the street, squinting through the downpour. There was a figure huddled against the brick wall of the neighbour's garden. A pile of rags, it seemed. Her knees were pulled to her chest, her head buried in her arms. Her hair was a tangled wet curtain masking her face. I glanced up at Mrs. Higgins' window. The blinds twitched. She was watching. They always watched the tragedy, never the rescue. I grit my teeth and focused on the girl. I slowed down, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. "Miss," I called out. My voice trembled. The figure moved. A flinch. A shudder. She slowly lifted her head. The streetlight flickered above us, casting a sickly yellow glow on her face. Her skin was grey, her lips cracked and blue from the cold. But it was the eyes, hollow, terrified, and swimming in a shock that no person should ever have to feel, that stopped my heart. She raised a hand to shield her eyes from the light. It was a small movement, a specific tilt of the wrist I had seen 1,000 times over the breakfast table, over homework, over wedding plans. Sarah. The name tore out of my throat, raw and painful. "Mom," she whispered. The sound was broken like glass under a boot. I fell to my knees on the wet pavement, ruining my slacks, not caring. I pulled her into me. She was so thin. Beneath the soaked, torn sweater, I could feel every rib. She smelled of rain and exhaust fumes and old fear. My baby. My brilliant, beautiful architect of a daughter. Reduced to this. I didn't ask questions. Not then. The rage that was igniting in my gut was white hot. But I swallowed it down. I needed to be a sanctuary, not a soldier. "Not yet." "Come on," I said, my voice steel-wrapped in velvet. "We're going home." Inside, the house was warm, but Sarah was shivering so violently her teeth chattered. I wrapped her in the thick wool blanket from the guest room, the one she used to curl up in when she visited. I heated up soup, the smell of chicken and thyme filling the kitchen, trying to mask the scent of the street. She ate slowly, her hands shaking so much the spoon kept clicking against the bowl. I sat opposite her, watching, waiting. When she finally pushed the bowl away, she didn't look at me. She looked at the table. "He sold it, Mom," she said. Her voice was flat, dead. "Who sold what?" I asked gently. "Mark," she said. "He sold the house. Our house." I frowned. That wasn't possible. They had bought that colonial in the suburbs 3 years ago. It was their pride and joy. "He's been seeing her for 6 months, Sarah continued, the tears finally starting to spill, hot and fast. "His assistant, Jessica. I came home early from the business trip on Thursday, and she was there. Wearing my robe." Sarah choked on a sob, her hands gripping the table edge. "She wasn't just wearing my robe, Mom. She was drinking from the mug Dad made me. The ceramic one with the chipped rim." She looked at me over the rim and smiled. A little, pitying smile. Like I was the intruder. I felt my nails digging into the wooden surface of the dining table. "He told me to get out," she sobbed. "He said he sold the house to a cash buyer that morning. Closed the deal while I was away. He said the new owners were moving in on Monday. He changed the locks. He froze our joint accounts. He threw my clothes on the lawn. And he laughed, Mum. He told me I was dead weight. He said, 'Go cry to your mother. if she's even still alive. She looked up at me then, and I saw the absolute devastation in her eyes. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was the total annihilation of her dignity. I walked for 2 days, she whispered. I didn't have cash. My cards were declined. I was too ashamed to call you. I felt so stupid, Mom. I picked him. I chose this. I stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. I walked around the table and pulled her head against my stomach, stroking her damp hair. You listen to me, Sarah, I said, my voice low and vibrating with a dangerous calm. You did not choose this. Betrayal is a choice made by the betrayer, not the betrayed. You are not stupid. You are a victim of a crime. And make no mistake, I thought, staring at the rain lashing against the kitchen window. There will be a reckoning. Sarah finally fell asleep in her old room around 3 a.m. I didn't sleep. I went to my study. I opened my laptop. I poured myself a glass of water, though I wanted whiskey. I needed a clear head. I logged into the county clerk's public records database. I searched for their address. There it was. A sale recorded just 3 days ago. Sold to a generic LLC called Future Vistas Holdings. Fast. Too fast. Mark was an investment banker. He was arrogant, slippery, and charming. He thought he knew how the world worked. He thought women were soft things to be discarded when they lost their shine. But Mark forgot who his mother-in-law was. He forgot that before I retired to bake cookies and garden, I was the senior partner at Vance & Associates, specializing in forensic accounting and contract law. I pulled up the deed history. I pulled up the transfer documents. I zoomed in on the signature line. Sarah Vance. The signature was loopy, leaning to the right. I smiled. A cold, predatory smile in the darkness of my study. Sarah has been left-handed since birth. Her signature is jagged and leans sharply to the left. Mark hadn't just cheated. He hadn't just been cruel. He had forged a signature on a federal document to expedite a property sale. He had committed a felony. And that LLC? Future Vistas. I did a little digging. It was registered to a shell company in the Caymans. Mark wasn't just selling the house, he was selling it to himself under a fake name to hide the asset during the divorce he knew was coming. He was trying to steal the entire equity of the home, equity that my down payment gift had mostly built. I closed the laptop. I didn't need a baseball bat. I didn't need a gun. I had everything I needed in a manila folder. The sun was shining the next morning. It felt insulting. I dressed carefully. A tailored navy suit, sharp heels, my hair pulled back in a tight chignon. Armor. I told Sarah to rest, that I had an errand to run. She was too weak to argue. I drove to the luxury apartment complex downtown, the one Mark had moved into with Jessica, using the money he thought he'd stolen. I buzzed the intercom. "Delivery for Mr. Henderson," I said, altering my voice. The buzzer sounded. I pushed the door open. I took the elevator to the penthouse floor. The hallway smelled of expensive lilies and new money. I found 12B. I didn't knock. I pounded. The door swung open. Mark stood there. He was wearing a silk robe, holding a glass of orange juice. He looked well rested. Smug. "Evelyn." He blinked. A flicker of annoyance crossing his handsome face. "Look, if you're here about Sarah, I don't have time for the sobbing mother act. She's unstable." I had to get out. I didn't say a word. I just walked past him, my heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. "Hey, you can't just..." I walked into the living room. It was sprawling with a view of the city. A young woman, Jessica, was lounging on the white sofa, filing her nails. She didn't even look up at first. "Mark, tell the maid to come back later. I'm busy," she drawled. She finally looked up, saw my suit, and sneered. "Oh, it's the old hag. Did you get lost on the way to the nursing home?" Mark stormed in after me. "Evelyn, get out. Now. Or I'm calling security. You have no power here. You're just a lonely widow with a failure of a daughter. Go knit a sweater and leave the adults alone." I turned to face him. I didn't shout. I dropped my voice an octave, speaking with the quiet precision of a surgeon holding a scalpel. I may be a widow, Mark, but I'm a widow who knows where the bodies are buried. Or in your case, where the assets are hidden. You can call security, but I'd advise you to save your one phone call for a lawyer. Mark laughed, a nervous barking sound. You're threatening me? Sarah signed the papers. The house is sold, it's over. I have the money. It's done. I reached into my bag and pulled out the manila folder. I tossed it onto the glass coffee table. It landed with a heavy slap. Open it, I said. Mark hesitated. He looked at Jessica, then at me. He picked up the folder. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a blown-up comparison of Sarah's real signature from her passport and the signature on the deed transfer he had filed. And underneath that, a printout from the Secretary of State showing the IP address used to register Future Vistas Holdings. It was the IP address of his office computer. Mark's face went the colour of curdled milk. The hand holding the paper began to shake. Fraud. Mark, I said, stepping closer. Forgery. Money laundering. And since you used the mail to send the deed, mail fraud. That's federal. That's not a slap on the wrist. That's 10 to 15 years in a place where silk robes aren't on the dress code. Jessica stood up slowly, her arrogance evaporating. Mark, what is she talking about? You said it was legal. You said she signed it. Shut up, Jessica, Mark snapped. He looked at me, his eyes wild. He tried to pivot, tried to find the charm. Evelyn, wait. You're misunderstanding. I was managing the assets. For us. For Sarah too. I can fix this. We can work something out. I'll cut you a check right now. How much do you want? Name your price. I looked him up and down with pure disgust. I don't want your money, Mark. I have plenty of my own. And honestly, you don't have any money either. He froze. What? I called my old friend at the bank this morning while you were sleeping, I said, checking my watch. The FBI has already frozen the transfer. They're seizing the assets of the shell company. And since you used company equipment to commit the fraud, your firm has already been notified. You're fired, Mark. The glass of orange juice slipped from his hand. It shattered on the marble floor, sticky yellow liquid splashing onto his bare feet. The siren wailed in the distance. Approaching fast. I walked to the door. I paused and looked back. He looked small now. Pathetic. A little boy caught in a lie he couldn't charm his way out of. My daughter is going to file for divorce, I said. She gets the house, she gets the car, and she gets her life back. You get what you deserve. I walked out into the hallway just as the elevator pinged open. 2 police officers stepped out. I nodded to them politely. He's in 12B, gentlemen, I said. He's expecting you. I drove home with the windows down. The air was crisp and clean, the rain having washed the world new. When I got home, Sarah was sitting up in bed, drinking tea. She looked pale, but the terror was gone from her eyes. Is it done? She asked softly. I sat on the edge of the bed and took her hand, the left hand, the one that he had tried to use against her. It's done, I said. He can't hurt you anymore. The house is yours again, but maybe we sell it. Start fresh. Sarah squeezed my hand. A small, genuine smile touched her lips. Yeah, she said. I think I'd like that. I pulled her into a hug. Outside, the sun was high and bright. The storm was over, and as I held my daughter, I knew that while scars take time to fade, they eventually heal, especially when you have someone watching your back. Justice hadn't just been served. It had been signed, sealed, and delivered. Thank you, my loves, for watching until the end of the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the newest videos.